Just getting one last thing. Here we go. All right, guys. So today I want to talk to you about how do realtors get paid. I think today, more than ever, it's really pressing, I should say, that we talk about this. Why? Because a lot of people may not get paid in the future if they don't change certain behaviors they have. What do I mean by that? Well, there's been a lot of lawsuits, right? So today we're going to go over getting paid, how you get paid, who pays you, what the pay actually means, how it adds up, and then what ends up in your wallet. So we're going to go through that whole entire thing kind of step by step. First off, I want to talk about the Sherman Act. That I want to point out to you guys. The Sherman Act is about an antitrust, right? Antitrust means that we can't collude and set specific prices that we're going to charge on commission. So any numbers you see here today or anything, just think about them figuratively, just for the idea of training purposes only, and then not to suggest that any one of these models is better than the other. It's really to just suggest the different options that are available out there in the industry, so you, the agent, can take this information with you and learn how you get paid and how to expect to get paid. And if you're just getting started, you know how to properly interview a listing broker and be a buyer's broker and understand how you're going to get paid. So first off, let's start on the payment. So over here we have the seller, right? So a lot of times what has gone on with these different commission lawsuits is not to do with agents and how they get paid, it's how they word it. A lot of times a buyer's agent will use words like, oh, I'm free to you, but you're not in fact free. So let's go over it. Originally, the seller typically is going to hire a listing broker. So that seller, by hiring the listing broker, offers the listing broker a commission. Then that listing broker goes ahead and offers a cooperating commission. The cooperating commission is then offered to a buyer's broker. And notice I have an and or. I always have an and or on these, right? Because the listing broker may end up finding a buyer, at which point they become a dual agent. They're going to get paid on both sides of the transaction, or they're going to offer a cooperating commission to the buyer's broker. Now that's where the word free and everything got a lot of people in trouble, right? Because people were telling their clients through the brokerage, oh yeah, we're free. But in reality, you were getting a bounty from the listing broker known as a cooperating compensation in order to get paid as the buyer's broker. So the other option, notice the and or here as well, is the idea of the buyer paying. Now a lot of agents are uncomfortable with this, right? They're like, how could I charge my buyer? How is the industry going to even exist? Only 3.5% down. Well, the truth is lots of agents have been using buyer agency agreements for a long time and finding success with them to ensure that they get paid the full commission percentage they wanted. So in some situations, the buyer may be paying the buyer's broker a commission in order to make a buyer's broker work for them so that they can get compensation because the seller did not offer compensation. Now recently, a lot of the MLSs are now allowing a $0 commission, right, to the buyer's broker, where it used to be $1. So is it a huge change? Is that going to change the way people work? Obviously not. $1, $0, what's the difference, right? But what it really means is if you're a buyer broker and a buyer agent, you might want to watch this. You might want to be careful because your paycheck might disappear if you're unable to use buyer agency agreements, because if you don't have a pay scale and there is zero compensation up here, how are you going to get paid, right? So ultimately, us the agents, we always get paid by either the listing brokerage or the buyer's broker, because us an agent, we cannot, as a realtor, get paid without a broker, right? The broker gets paid by the seller, then they pay the agents. Guys, get familiar and get used to using a buyer agency agreement. It's a contract, yes, but one of the things that I really like about it, right, is it sets forth the expectations during the whole interaction with you, right? It doesn't just say, oh, you've got to work with me. It tells them when you get a pre-approval, you're going to do this. This is what you're going to do when you go to open houses. This is how we're going to work together. This is how much money I'm going to earn. In my years being a broker, I've seen different agents use them and not use them. And I saw one time, 2 agents, right? Very similar in sales, and one of them earned $17,000 extra that year because they used a buyer agency agreement, and sometimes that the number didn't match what they had. So say they had 2% commission offered and they had a 2.5% buyer agency agreement, they get the 0.5% from the buyer. And now that we're moving into this situation where if you have buyers that aren't used to this and aren't getting presented with the proper paperwork, and you end up with a zero, that means you over here, the agent, could get paid nothing. And guys, who wants to do work for nothing? Obviously none of us, right? We don't want to find out that at the end of the whole entire transaction that there is no commission offered. So getting into the conversation early with your buyers, getting used to that is going to help you get paid, which is what it's all about. We're obviously out there to help our clients, but without getting paid, we can't be out there doing our work. So again, typically speaking, most transactions, the seller pays the listing brokerage, right? The listing brokerage then offers a cooperating compensation, which pays the buyer's brokerage. And then the listing brokerage and the buyer's brokerage each pays the representative for the transaction known as the agent. Unless, of course, the person comes in and does what we call dual agency. Dual agency is legal in some states, isn't in others. In Massachusetts, we're a known dual agency state where it has to be disclosed. Has to be, we give them notice and we let them know when we enter it, and we make sure we disclose, but dual agency could mean that all of the commission is going to go to you, the dual agent. You got to get permission from both sides, but great way to do a transaction. Make sure to treat everyone fairly when you do this, but that's overall how a realtor's gonna get paid in a situation like this. So let's fast forward, right? We get all the money that comes in through all this. So what happens between the original money in and when it makes it over to here? And those things, guys, are called fees and commission splits and things like that. So today, let's go ahead and clear up this space so we have some more space to let you know other things here. Let's get that out of there. So commission splits and things, right, guys? So here we have the types of commission splits, right? There are 100% offices. What does that mean? As an agent, you take 100% of the commissions. Do you get to keep 100% of the commissions? No, you're a company just like any other company. There are going to be fees, there are going to be different things you need to pay, but also you're going to have spent money on marketing, you're going to have spent money on gasoline, all the different tools, online resources, they're all going to come out of your 100% split. And chances are your brokerage on 100% split, it's not going to offer things like insurances and things which are going to add to extra expenses. So on 100% commission split, you're going to take all the money, then you're going to have to pay all the things. Make sure on these 100% split companies that you understand all your fees and everything, which if we step over to fees right here, we have the transaction fee, marketing fee, technology fee, errors and omissions insurance, and franchise fee. All these ones here, pretty standard issue, guys. A lot of companies charge them. Not every company charges every one. Not every company charges the same. But when you're trying to figure out how much of the money at the top, what are you going to get paid is going to be yours, you're going to want to watch each one of these fees. We'll give an example coming up to have you better understand what those fees could look like and how they can impact you. And we're going to want to understand where in the whole chain of command do the fees come out of. So next up, 50-50. This model is very common, right? We see a lot of companies that offer a lot of training or tools, a lot of different resources, oftentimes a little more limited on the fee schedule. They're offering a 50-50 commission split, which means you, the agent, and them, the brokerage, get 50% of the money, and you get to do what you see fit with it. With the 50-50 model, oftentimes at the beginning of your career, you're going to see different training modules where this 50-50 might actually only equal 25%. Why? Because you're going to have to 50-50 with a training broker or a training agent on your first multiple transactions, which means it's going to take you a little while to get your money going well enough that you can actually be independent. I don't have a problem with them, but make sure you budget if you're going to choose these types of methods. The next one down is a 70-30 split. Now, some brokerages actually offer you to choose every single one of these options, but say a 70-30 split. Typically, a 70-30 split is going to offer you a pretty decent amount of tools, a lot of backing, and they're going to have limited fees. But what you're not going to have is as much training as they call it, but paying a fee for it. You're going to have more training if it is from your broker. Maybe it's a smaller organization. They take time with you. They take time to educate you. But with a 70-30 split, typically that, a lot of times 50-50, 70-30, 90-10. Brokerages even offer ladder up ones based on your sales commissions. As you get more commissions and you work your way up, you tend to grow and your obligations to the brokerage go down because you're continuing to earn them more money. Now, 90-10, I saw a company once which offered one or the other, right? So you were able to do one or the other. Now, like I said to you guys at the beginning, Sherman Act, not telling you one way or the other, but this company offered two options. One, took a 90-10 split. You then did your different fees. You had administration fees and things, and you took the percentage fees based on what percentage sales you had for the office. So this 90-10 split, you actually had the risk of owing money. You actually had to pay your section of the fees, or if you chose the 70-30, the money was 100% yours. But one of the reasons I go over all these different ones, guys, is I want you to think about your own split. And I want you to understand, when I take this split, like, how much of this money is really going to be mine? So let's jump over here and just do some easy math. So let's put a $400,000 transaction up on the board, right? And the listing brokerage is charging a listing fee of 5%. So we have 5%, and the total commission on this deal is $20,000. Okay, so of that $20,000, we have a buyer agent and we have a seller agent, right? So they're each going to get $10,000. It's first going to go to their brokerage. Now, depending on where they landed, if they're at a 50-50 split, no fees, it means that they're going to get $5,000. Get to keep it all, right? Now, this other person's at 100%, right? But then they need to pay certain fees, right? So they take their $10,000, but then they need to pay their insurance. They need to pay all these other things. So we'll just make up some miscellaneous costs. But say they have $4,350 worth of expenses, then that means that they're going to have $5,650 left over at the end of this whole equation. So what this means is, if you look at these two splits, this one would make more sense because you're earning more money, but without doing the math, without looking at your own unique situation, you may not understand these things. It may not be just that simple to understand either. So you do have to make sure when you're looking at commissions and you're looking at the splits, you're comparing apples to apples, because to think about what one company does versus another company is to say that they're all the same and to say that they all offer the same benefits and rewards, versus thinking to yourself, what unique value propositions does this company have and how can it affect me? So let's jump in a little bit further about getting paid. So, and really talk about how there is some things that you want to watch out for, because when you join a brokerage and you're getting paid off of your sales, right? So if you're not making sales and you're getting a higher split, so let's say you did 10 million in sales, right? It's a good year, so you have 10 million in sales and you charged a 5% split. Okay, so it was 5%, so that puts a bunch of zeros on the board. So at the end of this whole thing, let me do the math here. Go figure why I picked such a hard number. 5. Okay, so now 2.5% of that equals 250,000, because you ended up with half the sales. So we had 250,000, right? So what I said is 10 million in sales, 5%. You represented just the buyer's side, so you had 5 million in total. Here we are at 250,000. Now you take and you go a 50-50 split. That means you and the brokerage each got 125,000, right? Now, say you worked over here and you did the same thing. You did 10 million in sales, but because you didn't work in your commission splits, you didn't always have that buyer agreement, so that you didn't get paid. You represented those buyers, you didn't get paid that. You instead got paid 200,000 because you only had a 2% commission split, because you didn't have no buyer agreement. You only had 200,000, right? So now, even though you have the same split, you now only have $100,000, right? So these are both at 50-50. You only got 100,000 in that situation, right? So guys, as you can see, not having a buyer agreement, like we mentioned at the beginning, this new lawsuit, everything going on, not only is it gonna cut your pay down if you don't have it to possibly zero, but it also can greatly affect your pay when it comes to your transactions. You can end up in a situation like that. Or another way to look at it is, say you only did 3 million in total gross, right? So you have only one more zero in there. You only have 3 million, and again, you have only that 2%, but you have 70% cut, right? So we come down 3 million times the 2. So what do we have here? We have 120,000 on that, right? So we have 120,000, and we're gonna get a 70% split on that. So 70 out of 100 is 70,000, and then we have another, so it's 84,000. So 84,000 total there with a 70% split because of that, right? So what's my point? Why do I put all these numbers up? Because guys, understanding the way each and every brokerage works and understanding just this part seemed complex. But now what if we added fees? Where would those fees have come out of? Well, the truth is, most of the time, the fees actually come out up here, not down here. So down here, this is typically, remember, post the commission split. The fees are typically taken before the commission split, which means that they're bigger numbers. So understanding where your brokerage takes their fees from, is it before or after? Is there a cap on them? How far do they go? If there is a cap, are there other fees that result from that cap? What does that mean to you? We've got to pay attention to that, right? So ultimately, the way realtors get paid, right, is either the buyer or the seller pays their commission. But that said, the seller typically was the one paying the commission. Until recently, where now we're wondering, is this buyer going to have to come up with these commissions? And if they are, what kind of adjustments are we going to see in the market? And that's where it gets exciting to me. I know a lot of people out there are saying to themselves, geez, this could lead to the death of the industry. This could lead to the end of everything. I gotta have to say to you guys, the industry's gotten used to a lot of changes. There was a time where there wasn't even really buyer agency representation at all. So I imagine the banks, the government, everyone will get involved. They'll figure out a way to reshuffle the numbers. And at the end of the day, considering that the buyer paid the entire price for the home, they really technically paid the fees. Yes, it came out of the seller's proceeds, so the seller paid it. But due to the fact that they continue to escalate prices, it changes the whole thing that the buyer is paying that fee. So ultimately speaking, guys, the money's already been there. It's a resorting, it's a rechanging. This isn't going to be the death of the industry, but for those of you out there that don't know how to use an exclusive buyer agency agreement, I would recommend you get familiar with it right away, because at the end of the day, the way that realtors get paid is by having a contract, right, guys? So I skipped over that until the end here, because I wanted you to understand that the way a realtor gets paid is by completing a contract. We get paid by our success. As a commission-based employee, our pay relies on us finding success for both ourselves and the client. The more we sell the home for, the more money we earn. The better our commission split is, the more money we keep as a real estate agent. Guys, I hope that helps you understand it better. If you guys haven't already done so too, make sure to jump over to the Facebook group. Make sure to check out the podcast. I know the YouTube here is fairly new, so some of you are new to the YouTube. Understand, we just got started with that, but we didn't just get started. We have over 16,000 downloads and other things. So make sure to pound that bell, hit the subscribe button, tell everyone you know about this great new YouTube channel, because we're going to continue to expand on it. We're going to be doing different live interviews and lots of different style video to give you, the realtors, more advantage. That way there you can grow your business in real estate and earn more commissions. Thanks again for joining us this week, and I look forward to talking to you on the next live event. Thanks, guys.